I think you're decoding a lot of pieces here for people who, I think many of us are in those relationships, but culturally we don't know how to break away from it because if you break away from it, then what do you have as family? And especially somebody who is supposed to be so close to you, you identify so much with that individual that if they're removed in certain ways from the picture, it's so painful. And I think that's why most people don't do it. But it's also why most of us haven't grown in different areas, both personally in our own lives as well as in the relationship with the other person, why our families can't improve because we still carry those baggages or wounds into the relationship with us. So I love that you have the courage because I'm the courage to, push through and do that. And again, to put it in words so many of us can learn from that. It's powerful and I honor that.
Well, thank you, Teko. I appreciate it, and I just want to say too that sometimes we have to tell ourselves our full story, and this is what we talk about on my I have a call for black men. It's called Becoming Good Fathers. Every Saturday morning at 7 a.m. PST, I just open up a Zoom and we just men come in. Sometimes it's a lot, sometimes it's a little, but it's a safe place to fall apart. But I've been trying
Yeah.
to get us to tell ourselves our own story. And so, sometimes my mom would be like, she'd be like, well, all that knocking you upside the head, really worked out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Uh, and I was like, well, if it worked out, you also have to take credit for the suicidal ideation as well. You can't
Hmm.
separate the two because there was a time where I wanted to kill myself since I was 9. I asked God to take my life.
Yeah.
So you have to take credit for both of those. Are you willing to do that? You know, um, and I had to tell her like, hey, like at this point, you're my mom. I haven't like relied on you in a way that is nurturing since, a young age. I don't know how to do that now. I don't trust
Hmm.
you to have communication. Here's all the things I'm not going to do and all the things we don't do. And we're not going to pretend to do it. So the closest we can be now is friends. Is that what you want? And she said, I don't know what I want.
Hmm.
Well, I don't have those type of relationships in my life right now where people are just in limbo and they're able to come in and cause tension and have access to my home and my
Yeah.
children without even making a commitment to be a good friend. It's
Yeah.
not happening. You know what I mean? And so that's kind of what I've been, on as far as our relationship. And the truth I told myself is that you can never be a good father if you don't have access to your parents. And so I had to then, well, say, what am I actually holding on to? You know, because what it is how I define myself. I have to say that, I used to define myself as a survivor of abuse, and that is not who I am. I'm
That's right.
way too far from that.
That's
And
right.
so, we got to say the whole story, right? So if you're gonna say, "Hey, if I lose this, then I lose family," and I'm like, okay, well, what does that family do for you? What does it provide? What does it help you accomplish? Um, and sometimes you get to a certain age as an adult where you're like, oh man, this is actually costing me more than it's worth. You have to start assessing things like that, you know?
Hmm. How do you see it from an intergenerational perspective with your kids? And how do you see that, or what's a healthy way to build off of that?
Well, I mean, I think that, the main goal is that our children would love themselves. They would know to love themselves. Um, and also, the next goal is like to see your parents healthy, loving each other, loving themselves, and loving the people around them. If at any point I bring someone around me that threatens my children's perception of me,
Yeah.
right? And endangers like who I want them to become, I'm then putting myself in a place where my witness isn't even reliable. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? And so how I think of it is, mom, like I really want you to be in a relationship with your grandchildren, but not at the cost of me.
Yeah. Yeah.